is part of our team. So this computer, if you see us start a meeting without a computer, say Peyton, where's your computer? Because this is Morgan and this is Ava. They have cheerleaders this time, but they're joining us virtually.
And more tonight. So
And more tonight. Kimmy Irby is singing at the choir.
And AJ.
AJ.
You're not the only student guys on team.
Yeah, AJ Russ is coming as well. So they're gonna watch, but if you don't say computer, ask where my computer is. There we go. Cool. So, does everybody know everybody's name? Wrong. The student names, I guess.
Should we do a quick name and
Grade
grade?
and
I was thinking so much.
okay, it's more.
School fun? I don't know.
Name, grade, and
Name, grade, and what is the best TV show you've watched since COVID started? The best TV show. And we want to hear from both of you as well as your students. You got to try to take a guess for them.
yeah.
Name, grade. You don't have to say your grade. And then the best TV show you've seen since I guess March. When,
You want me to do it for Morgan?
yeah.
Morgan, I know exactly.
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Morgan Grace, her grade is 8th grade. Her favorite TV show is Grey's Anatomy. She's addicted.
She's not the only Grey's obsessed student we have.
You have major issues. If it makes you feel any better, that was me from like 8th to 12th grade. Oh my gosh. And I see more Grey's Anatomy.
So like,
Okay, so I have Ava Staten. She's in 8th grade, and I would say that her favorite show is probably Stranger Things.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm Claire Dolan, I'm in 8th grade, and my favorite show is Postmark.
nice. Well done, Brian.
Neil, you're on.
Neil?
I'm Neil Mullen. Great.
No, you can.
28, 36.
These are my two youngest kids. So, and the best show that I've watched since this all started, we binge watched Lost.
Ooh.
I watched it originally, not when it aired.
I'm Emma, I'm in 10th grade, and I wrote just something Lost also.
Yeah. I did.
I'm Santi, I'm in 8th grade, and my favorite show is
Did you see the restart?
Was it? Yeah.
Animaniacs. You're not in. I'm surprised. I don't think many people in this room are at an Animaniacs age. That's very millennial shows. It's like a cartoon. And
I'm like half a
yeah, but you weren't watching. I promise you weren't watching Animaniacs, which is great. I was more of a fan of Tiki and Fran spinoff, but Ashley and I. This is embarrassing. We watched the first episode of the Animaniacs yesterday morning. It was like Saturday morning cartoon. It's good. Steven Spielberg. Proud of you for that one. Are you watching the reboot? Okay, very nice.
Okay, I'm Macy, I'm in 10th grade, and my favorite show is The Office.
There about this team already.
I'm Ellie. I'm also I'd say probably
We gotta hear from me too. You know.
I'm Jeff Langston, Macy's dad. And TV show, so the last one I've been, I guess, is Firefly, because I never had it first time around and watched a lot of Big Bang and they talk about it, so I figured I might as well watch it.
Do you like Young Sheldon?
Not as much.
I'm Peyton. I'm in grade 18, 17, somewhere in there. And I think I watched Designated Survivor.
Oh,
It was interesting.
my name's Pierce. I'm in lots of grades. I've been in lots of grades. No, not many. I have binge watched. My wife and I were big TV people. I did watch all of Designated Survivor. I think though we went early on in the pandemic. We got on a board TV show kick. And we watched The Pacific, which I don't know that I would necessarily recommend. It's very, very violent. It's pretty, I would imagine, pretty accurate Pacific Theater, World War II stuff. But really, really good. I did love Tiger King.
Oh, that was bad.
That was,
Yellowstone, do you want Yellowstone?
no, but I've heard good things. I've heard good things. Yeah, like King's Gambit too. And Mandalorian. It's great. So,
Cool. Well, at your tables, learn a little bit more about each other. So it's not to, you need to move tables as you're by yourself. You're gonna play the game Two Truths and a Lie. It's the only time we want to lie in church. So you guys say two things that are true about yourself, one thing that's a lie, and your table has to guess it.
this will be interesting.
Yeah, so no one's playing.
Careful, Brandon, you don't have to do unity here.
Ready, go. Two truths and a lie.
It's like a fun session.
I know, I'm kind of.
I know. This is tough. You're doing it right.
Think what? Back in the 70s, had an afro and
Me go first, me go first. All right. All right.
okay. That's a lie. My favorite color is blue.
Play Texas State Tournament.
Don't do that.
Final. City.
Let's talk about the lie.
Five children.
I'm so bad.
It's easy. Where it is considered. It's
Honestly,
2000. Single friend. That I played in the city soccer team.
East side of people. Did they get it?
Yeah, I made these. That's how it's there to be.
Ellie Creators?
She's really not.
Is that right, Bernie? I think it's oversimplification. Not left brain like that. Or the.
I'm not happy. I'm neither.
Grade, small grade.
I'm not shy.
Alright, let me hear yours.
You like shopping. I think I've never seen the photo of this one. I like it. I don't know about anyone who's like, I just love them. Okay, let's come back. Did anyone stump anybody? Everybody knows everybody already? Wow, nobody is a good liar. I guess that's a good thing. Cool, okay,
You might not go?
more.
Okay.
Okay, you go.
I've never broken a bone. My brother's an actor. Where I play basketball in high school. Never.
I don't see you play basketball.
I played basketball in high school. That counts as high school. Let's see if you can tell a lie.
So he didn't play the game correctly.
Hey, well, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for making this a priority. I know some of you weren't able to. That's okay. You're gonna watch it. That'll be totally fine. But hey, we're really excited about this trip. If you don't know the history of this relationship with San Antonio, so let me take you back to last June. We were, or really last April of 2019. No, sorry, 2020. Keep one second.
Oh,
We started training virtually for a trip to South Dakota. That trip, Shutter, as many things did and have. And so temporarily we pivoted towards forging a relationship with a guy named Bill Morgan, who runs a ministry in San Antonio. Unbelievable.
it's either Daryl or another guy named possibly Daryl.
And pastor, who's from the east side of San Antonio. So they've started a ministry and really a church, and the guy who's linking on his name is the pastor, and it's really, really cool what they do. The east side of San Antonio is a lot like what you would probably maybe consider South or West Dallas, Oak Cliff area, or even kind of over like Fair Park, maybe more comparable. So lower income, a lot of minority Hispanics and African American primarily, and not as Bill will be quick to say, and I think everyone deserves to know, not necessarily like the place that a lot of people, if I can just be so honest, like us, would typically hang out at New Wilmington at Nicholas, and you can just spend your Saturday afternoon around Fair Park, and you probably don't unless you're going to the fair, right? But it's an area similar to that. The ministry they do is really, really cool. Pete said this morning. A lot of people that we're ministering to, especially the younger kids, have never left San Antonio, and at that have very rarely left East San Antonio. In fact, there's a chance, not to jump ahead, we might take some of the kids that we'll be ministering to, let them load on a charter bus one night, and take them to some property just north of San Antonio and Bernie. It's kind of hill country, and do like a bonfire and stuff like that. And Bill was saying that most of the kids will probably have never done anything like that, and possibly have never been. No, they didn't say possibly. Some of them will have never been that far. And this would literally be like being in Richardson and going as far as maybe McKinney, maybe a little further, maybe like or something. And so you can imagine if that's all you know, that's a pretty different lifestyle than what you and I are living. But it's going to be really cool. This partnership comes through Richard Covington, our missions pastor. And so we've never done a trip with him, but we really do trust him. They're going to watch out for us. We don't feel like it's unsafe by any stretch of imagination, but it will be. There will be their challenges. I think it'll stretch us all, and it's going to be really, really, really cool. We'll be doing a lot of ministry through sports and games, not necessarily like intense sports, but like games and sort of what we're going to put on. I don't know if you've been to camp with us or if you've been to day camp, like a typical rep, kind of do some things like that. Yeah, so we'll do this thing called Camp of Champions each day. Camp of Champions is kind of like we'll be set up into 4 different teams, and you'll play 4 quarters, which will just simply be 4 different games. And then at halftime, in between, games 2 and 3, I guess, we'll huddle up into little groups and we'll lead a brief devotional. And we won't just sit you off yet. Won't be like, Emma, you by yourself go take these 15 kids. But it may be like, Emma and Ellie, y'all go over here and take these kids. And you'll do a little devotional. You'll do your thing. You'll get a little spin. You walk through each one of these. Just a way of sharing the gospel. So the heart is God loves you. The next is sin into a picture. So we were separated from God. But then Jesus sent his son to die on the cross. And then the next day, it's so what are you going to do about it? And the next day really does end for you guys at Eves, which is going to be super exciting. Essentially giving an invitation. Now, not only do we want to show them the gospel through telling them like that, but we also want to be a tangible expression of the gospel. So there will also be opportunities to serve physically the church as well as some of the neighbors. And so we might do things like a little bit of yard work. They actually just moved into a new church building. So there might still be some things that we do to help them help them around their building. And so that would be really cool. That'll likely be in the morning. And then what I was just talking about, the Camp of Champions will be in the afternoon. If you've never been on a mission trip, which I know a lot of you have in this room, then you know that things are a little bit flexible. It's funny because usually we're coming off of Chi Alpha, where you guys don't realize this, but like every minute of Chi Alpha is very calculated. We run a very tight schedule at Chi Alpha because there's a lot of moving parts. And then 3 weeks later, typically we're in Honduras where schedules are very, 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 very subjective.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with this. We have a plan, and the plan is to be the hands and feet of Jesus. So there's no doubt in our mind that we'll do that. And this will probably be primarily how we do that through. But things could change. We might come back in a few trains and be like, hey, we're also going to do this, we're going to do that. I told you about taking some of these kids out to some land one night, some things like that. And then do it. Oh yeah, and we'll also worship with them. That's why we're leaving on a Saturday, it's because we think it'll be really rich to our experience to start the week off in worship with them. I think their worship services are really unique. Not unique, that's a weird way of saying that. I just think it'll be different than how you and I are used to worshiping at 9:30 on a Sunday with Judd and his team and Brian giving the message. So it'll be fun. It might last a little bit longer than what we're used to. But if you've been to Honduras, at least it'll be in a language that most of us understand, and we won't be jet lagged per se. We might be road trip lagged. But so that is again just a small kind of little depiction of what we'll be doing. Again, the guy who will primarily be working with is a guy named Bill Morgan. He actually had a pretty successful career. I don't know what he did, but he made a good amount of money and has decided to spend his retirement investing in his community. So it's a really cool thing. Again, sorry to keep saying this, but if you've been to Honduras, then Bill Morgan actually kind of reminds me of Bill Hayden. Bill was a similar guy. Bill Hayden ran an orphanage in Honduras, was very successful here working in Dallas, I think, as an engineer, and then the Lord called him to suspend his retirement in Honduras. And so Bill Morgan and Bill Hayden have sort of similar stories. And again, they're going to take, or Bill is going to take great care of us. So the trip cost is in the ballpark of $400 to $500. We should be able to get that price very soon. The reason we typically give a ballpark is because airfare fluctuates. Obviously, we're not flying to San Antonio. So sorry, we'll probably be loading up in vans. We will most likely stay at a hotel, and so that will be part of it, and then as well as all your meals. So basically, not all your meals, most of your meals. Basically, the only thing that won't be covered in that $400 or $500 is if on our free day, if you want to buy a little something, and most likely one meal on the way down and on the way back. Great, so we'll stop off and grab food at I was about to say at a gas station. We don't make you eat at a gas station. I like that. At a Chick-fil-A. Do what?
Wait, most of our stuff on the cup.
Yeah. Oh, I hate eating Buc-ee's. We'll stop. I mean, we can stop at Buc-ee's if you want. It better be like that.
We have a barbecue.
It's not really barbecue, I eat great barbecue.
I
Just.
love Texas as much as anyone, but I think the Buc-ee's thing is just ridiculous. You guys should realize people make fun of us for stuff like that. Don't eat gas stations that have 147 pumps. And they eat barbecue at, in my opinion.
And beaver nuggets.
And beaver nuggets. So, quick story. We went to England on a mission trip. And it's really cool. If you're in 10th through 12th grade, you can go to England this summer, Lord willing, and we encourage you to bring a gift to your host home. Probably won't be saying host home, but I brought beaver nuggets to this British family because I thought, probably for similar reasons that you guys will get a kick out of this. They thought they were disgusting. The kids were eating. I have a video of the kids being like, "What is this? This is garbage." We went down the triplets or the twins. That was so disgusting. Not a fan of it. Yeah, rubbish. That's literally what they said. These are rubbish.
It tastes like a mix of a corn pop and
It's better than
it's bad. My experience is
Really?
yeah, all of them, every single one of them.
Even
Yeah, but
though
they also kind of like fast food until they left America.
yeah,
And then they eat or maybe it just tastes easier.
Yeah.
there you go.
So any questions about that? I know that was brief. We'll have a schedule for you guys in the coming meetings, no doubt about that. But yeah, so we'll leave on a Saturday, mid-morning, drive down there, get down there Saturday night, get settled in, have a team dinner together. And then Sunday we'll wake up, we'll go to church on Sunday morning, and then hopefully we'll either do a little bit of service on Sunday, as in like physical able service, or it might even be like kind of an evening meal with some of the community. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, most likely in the morning, will be some more of our physical kind of labor projects, and then in the afternoon we'll go to a park, we'll do Camp of Champions, and then we'll train and equip you guys on this so you know what you're getting into. And then on Thursday, we will have a free day, then we leave on Friday. No, we leave on that Thursday.
We leave on.
Yeah, sorry. So, make sense?
We'll get home and find out.
Yeah, don't worry.
So just some of the logistical stuff. If you've ever done a mission trip with us, if you've heard of managed missions, that's a lot of times where you can see information about like your fundraising. It has a fundraising area where you can put money into, and it like shows like a scale. Oh, you've raised this much out of this much. Or there's even like a fund me scale, and I can help you like set that up, where you can set up basically a link that people can go to if you want to like put a link, or send a link to like family and your fundraising. So you can give them a link and it pops up to your profile, and they can donate money to you for going on the trip. But it also has a waiver because you will have to fill out certain forms. So one of the forms that you'll need to fill out is this form, the eligible feature adult form. And every student will have to fill out this 2021 medical release form. It's run in a new year. That is signed by you and your parents and will need to be notarized. So that one's on paper, but then there's another form that we do for every mission trip that is from our missions department that is actually on managed missions. It takes approximately 10 seconds to fill out. You like initial in 2 spots and sign, and it is done. That has to be done in order to go on the trip. And it is a new one for each mission trip. So if you've done it before, you need to do it again because it's about San Antonio 2021, even if you did the San Antonio 2021. And then lastly, the deposit as well will need to be paid by the end of the 2020 year. So by the 31st, we ask that the $200 deposit is paid for that. So you have till the end of December to pay that, and then you have until the date in February to pay in full. So you don't need to pay in full isn't her, but we do ask for a deposit. So that's just some logistical aspects, but for training, you guys will see up here, we usually go through a book. Last year we went through articles, but I will hand this out to you guys. This is a little bit different than what we've done before, since we're doing junior high and high school. It's called When Helping Hurts. Has anyone heard of this before?
Yeah.
You've heard of it, Neil?
We did the video series for one of the trips.
Okay, so there is videos on here, but it also has a small group experience guide. And so what it is if you open it up and look in there, it's basically talking about poverty and how when mission trips and when we're talking about poverty, what it, like our view on poverty, but then actually how it's helped people. And like how sometimes mission trips can be good and how sometimes they can be bad. Because I just finished the first unit looking into it for next week. And it actually talks about, okay, what is the biblical perspective of defining poverty? And what is like a first world country defines poverty as? And actually when it talked to different people around the world who are actually in poverty, their different definition of poverty was very different than when you asked a bunch of Americans who were well off what they thought poverty was. And so it says, if we don't know the definition of poverty, how are we actually supposed to help people? And then talks about that, but then also goes into like the spiritual aspect of poverty. And so you'll see a QR code under watch. So it has like a couple questions beforehand, and then there's a QR code. It's like a 15-minute video. It's not long at all. So you watch the video, and then you answer these questions. So it's not even much reading at all. But I will say, we've done books in the past, but this one, if you don't do, it's going to be really hard to jump in on discussion when we do discussion each week. So I really urge you to do it. Because usually I feel like when we do a book, you can jump in and be like, oh, like I found this, or I feel that way too, and no one knows it and didn't actually read the book. But this is kind of talk about stuff that I haven't even really learned before, I haven't even really paid attention to, and gave me a new perspective on how we interact with people who don't have as much as we do. Or even like spiritually impoverished people. And so like you need to have this done before you come. It really doesn't take long. Even if you spend a lot of time on it, you're gonna finish it in like less than 40 minutes, including the video. So finish that. You wanna finish unit 1 before next week. Okay, unit 1. And we'll do 1 per week. And then when we come, we'll talk about that first unit together. Sound good? So it's really cool. It's a really cool book. And it breaks down. There's an actual book called When Helping Hurts. And we're not making y'all read the book because it's pretty heady and long. And this like breaks it down to a level where we can actually kind of talk about it and kind of go through everything that it's wanting us to know. So I really, really like it. Pierce read the actual book before. I think when he was in school a long time ago. It'll be really good. And then also, if you've been on a mission trip with us before, I think 3 of you have. Basically, you have, right? Have you not? You've done training with us before, though. Yes. And they got canceled. But you've done use before. So we do use during our trainings, which use basically are talking about basically your testimony, so what God has done in your life. And so we like to do that because during our training, it's basically you spend 5 minutes in your table groups, or your subgroups, is what we call it, and share your testimony. Share what was my life like before Jesus, how did I come to know Jesus, and now because of my relationship with Jesus, this is what my life is like. And the reason we like to do that is because when we go and we're in places such as San Antonio, or we're having ministry that's very relational, that's one way that we're able to share the gospel is through what the Lord has done in our lives. And if we can't do it when we're sitting at a table surrounded by like-minded people, it's going to be really hard to do it surrounded by people we don't know, and we don't know what they believe, they might believe something different. And so every single person that's on this trip, including Pierce and I, are going to share our views. And I'll have a schedule printed out, or on the screen, and you'll see the text out, so it's not like you're gonna show up one week and you're like, I'm gonna be like, oh, Claire, it's your turn to share, you, and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't have time to prep, like, what? Like, you're gonna know, and if you want help, like, going and being like, I don't actually know how to do this, that is okay. There are people who've done it before, or you can ask me, or you can ask like Neil or Pierce, because we've done it plenty of times, or even some of the older students on the trip. But everyone's gonna get to share their deal, including the people on the screen. You're gonna get to do that as well. And so that's just a really cool part, because even though like it is training for a mission trip, it's also like the biggest thing that we like to talk about is it's also training for like your life, like what you take out of this trip. We don't want it just for San Antonio. We want it also so you can go into your high schools and share your testimony, share what the Lord has done in your life with your friends. So we want you to be able to share, this is how the Lord has changed my life in Mountain Pass. And so the fact that you're able to do it here, we also want you to be able to do it there. Cool? And then the last thing, subgroups. We'll probably only have 2 or 3 because it's not a huge team, but it's basically when we share our views, when we talk about like our books, it's basically just small groups. And so next week we'll be split into subgroups, and that's kind of your group for training, which we'll talk about, which you'll like discuss with. So that's basically all subgroups are. So Pierce is going to finish this off.
Yep. Do it. So yeah, like Payne said, she talked a lot about training, but one of the things we always like to emphasize, and I kind of talked about this in the beginning, is that we never want to be the church, because I don't think this is a biblical model. I think we'll get into some of this in the book, but we never want to be the church that feels like we need to go into inner city San Antonio and be like the white saviors. We don't want to go, I know this word might not connect there. We don't want to have an imperialistic mindset when we go. We're going to teach them how to do height. We've got it all figured out here, and so we're better than you, and so just listen to us and we'll teach you. But instead, we want to go as learners, because we know that the way that they do church and the way that they're the hands and feet of Jesus in inner city East San Antonio, we have a lot to learn and take back here to affluent Dallas. And we want to be part of that. And so we want to go and we want to learn from their culture. You may be thinking, well, culture, like, come on, Pierce, it's like 4 hours down 35. How different of a culture can it be? I don't know. Let's go find out together. Because I have a feeling it's probably more different than we think. And so we want to be recipients of their culture and of the way that we do things. And we're going to do our best to train you on that. When we go to Honduras and England, I'll be honest, it is even a much vastly different culture. And so we do more culture training. But we're going to help train you guys. We'll FaceTime one of these Sunday evenings with Bill Morgan. And he'll tell us a little bit about what's going on in East San Antonio. And then we will do our best to help kind of set us up so where we know what we're going and what we're getting into. But we do want this to be an experience where we learn about another way that the church is operating in God's kingdom. Because certainly, as I said just a minute ago, we don't think no one here thinks, hey, to myself, to Richard, to Gary, that this is the only way to do church, and we have to teach everyone how to. Does that make sense? And so that's a big part of how we train. It's kind of as best as we can, immersing ourselves in the culture before we go, but then even more once we get there, kind of walking into the culture open-handed. There's a lot of, if you ask, there's a lot of fun stories about how we kind of got to experience culture. When I went to England for not the first time, but for the first time in a long time, on kind of a vision trip, I found myself one morning in a Saudi Arabian, someone from Saudi Arabia, sitting on their kitchen floor, because they didn't have a kitchen table. They don't do that in Saudi Arabia. Eating a delicious, it was really good, breakfast that was just like on this huge circle thing with all these different breads and this unbelievable good hot tea. And man, was I a fish out of water. Like, not everything I ate was good. It wasn't really good. But it was awesome because I mean it was the craziest cultural shock thing I've ever experienced. And it was really fun. I don't know if it'll be that much, but hopefully there will be. Again, I think even just going to church with them, it's gonna be different. And it's gonna be different in a good way that I think will be enriching to all of us and to everyone that joins us. I kind of hit on this line earlier. We don't do these trainings just because we feel like part of going on a mission trip is training, but we do them because what we talk about really does make a difference for when we actually kind of get boots on the ground. So anything that's worthwhile has an element of training and preparation in it. I really do believe that. So the same thing with these trainings. So as best as you can, we really do ask you to be at these. Luckily with the technology, if you can't be at one, we will send you a link. But we really do want you to be here, or at the very least to watch as often as you can. So I think Peyton will have the training dates up there in just a second. And then finally, like Peyton said, I don't know who this was that said this a number of years ago. It might have been a guy named Ford Butler, who was a student pastor here now like 6 years ago. I got the chance to work with him for just about 6 months. But he would always say the 2% of your year that you spend on a mission trip changes the other 98%. So again, we really, really do hope, and for the parents in the room, we really do think that you investing financially in your students to spend 2% of their year on a mission trip, and then students, you investing 2% of your time. Some of you are paying for this also, so that's really cool. Whatever investment you're making into just this little chunk of your year will have ripple effects, and I really do believe it can have ripple effects on the rest of your year. I always bring up Neil's second oldest and Emma and Claire's older brother, Jack, because I firsthand, and there's been others, but I just know Jack really well, I have seen, not even to the extent that these three have, I have seen that kid's life change from about the 2% of his student ministry time, all 6 years that he spent on a mission trip. It really has changed him. It's changed the things that he's doing in College Station. It changes things he values right now, even as a college kid. So he really is, and there's plenty of others, but he particularly is a walking example of what spending a week on a trip like San Antonio can do. And so I think it's awesome you're here. Moms, dads, I think it's awesome that you're sacrificing for your kid to be there. I really, really do mean that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Peyton. Oh, you can already talk about the book. You went out and turned it. We're at school.
It's
That's all right.
Yep, I did. Well, anyway, I want you guys, before I show you that, if you see, so these are the training dates, so we'll have one more, we're gonna sneak it in before Christmas holidays, and then we're off. It's always weird when we do spring break trips, because we're off for a month, and it just feels super weird, but it's what happens. So it's December 13th, the only one that's on at the same time, it's 8:15 in the morning. I know that's early, but please make it a priority if you're able to come. It's because service is at 9:30, and because it's 3 trees day. And so that's why it's early, because you can't do it in the afternoon because it's 3 trees day. So please, 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 if the only reason you're not gonna be there next week is because you're sleeping, then get out of bed. That's all I'm gonna say. We wanna see you. So next week, 8:15. Okay, now I want you to spend time at your table. We're going to spend a few minutes at your table going through these 3 questions. Why did you decide to go on this trip? What are you most nervous for? What are you most excited for? And how are you praying that you grow in your relationship with God and minister to people during this trip? Ready? Go.
Yeah, just immediately start. Most excited. See each other. Things that you just take for No, it's very nice. Has to use that.
What did some of you guys say? Like, whatever you would like, Ellie. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. Lauren, what do you say?
So I was the first one, and I was looking forward because I was really excited to go in the summer. And they got canceled, so I didn't want to go. I also had experience, more going overseas experience, what it's like to be in the United States on a high school.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Nice. Anybody else? For any of them? That's the air conditioner. I think. Yeah, right? Thanks. Nobody? Did you have something else?
Well, I guess what we were talking about, like, what I was most nervous for, with Honduras, like during trainings for Honduras, I was nervous about interacting with the kids with the language barrier.
Yeah.
But when we actually got on the trip, I actually kind of found that the language barrier was like kind of helpful because you had something to like bond over, kind of like they're trying to figure out what you're saying, and you're trying to figure out what they're saying. And so there's kind of like, I don't know, it's just something to talk about or like try to interact with or through. But for this, I guess now I'm nervous that like interacting with kids that like are actually gonna understand what you're saying, like you're gonna have to immediately have like conversation starters and like things to talk about. So I guess I'm nervous about that.
Yeah. That's great. I never thought about that. That's fair.
Yeah, I heard you just dive into the play, right? You just
She's like, I need a
start
language
fixing
barrier.
or playing
It was like I
soccer.
needed to be hard.
When it slips over.
Yeah. Anybody else? Santi made eye contact. What do you think? I know, but you made eye contact. What do you think?
I decided to go on this trip to the field.
Oh, that's exciting. True. True. I think it will be good. Nice. Cool. So the last thing we want to do before we open up questions, we want to spend some time in prayer at your tables. So just praying for your student or for y'all students as well. Just a week spent serving for the people, or serving the people in San Antonio and the relationships that will be built. What the Lord will teach the individuals of the trip while they need life and circumstances that are very different than our own here in North Texas. And the next couple of months as we train as a team, just for unity, for people to get to know each other in such a wide range of ages, for obedience, for not just on the trip, but also that it would bleed into our daily life as well. So let's just spend the next 4 to 5 minutes just in a group, just praying for that. And then here's your I will close.
See what you do. Teach us if you we can just separate it. Show
I swear
Lord, we thank you just for the way that you've made for us to go to San Antonio and be lights, be agents of transformation, Lord God. We know that no one in this room has the power to create any significant change in someone's life, Lord. We believe that your Spirit is with us and your Spirit does have power to move people from death to life. Father, that's exactly what we pray would happen. Father, I pray also just for the transformation that will take place in each of our hearts as we go. Father, we do pray that we would not return the same, Lord, that we would leave on March 6th and then come back on March 11th with a new perspective and a new way to reach our friends, our family, and our classmates. Lord, Father, finally, we just pray. Lord, we pray honestly and openly that nothing would stop us from being in San Antonio. We know many people in this room have been stopped. All of us have been stopped from doing things we wanted to do over the last 9 months. Some of us even stopped from going on mission trips. Lord, Father, we trust in your sovereignty and that those are the right decisions, Lord. But Father, this time, we want to go. We really do, Lord. So, Father, we just pray that you would make that happen. Amen.
Cool, okay, does anybody have any questions, that we can answer before we do our last announcements? Mostly parents and students, if you have any.
All right, you're free to ask us after it helps you.
Yeah. Okay, announcements. Next meeting, next Sunday at, do you have the time? Somebody said 8:30. Ellie is gonna show up late. It's 8:15. And it's going to be in the pub again, so in here, Ellie. What time? 8:15. Amazing.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. It's okay. Sun tomorrow. Okay, what are we reading? What are we gonna do? What section? Section 1. Neil knows. Awesome. Section 1. Okay, and then this is mostly for parents. Deposit is due by the 31st of December, $200, and then fill out medical release form. If your student is here and your parent is here, I can notarize it today. You can hand it in. Don't worry about it. And then the other form is our managed admissions. Takes 10 seconds. Fill that out as well. Awesome. Cool. Y'all are amazing. We're was super duper excited. And if you have it really fun, try to get her down the seat because we have to start looking stuff that. So